It all started out like a fairy tale. My wife Lisa and I had just gotten married, and everything felt like it was finally falling into place. We'd spent months planning the wedding, long walks through the park, late-night calls about the guest list, and 100 tiny details that seemed trivial at the time. The day of the wedding, she looked stunning in her white dress, her hair perfectly styled, her eyes full of happiness. I remember holding her hand during the vows, feeling like nothing could go wrong. But then in the back of my mind there was this little nagging voice, something about her behavior that I couldn't quite shake. She was a little too anxious at times, fidgeting when she thought I wasn't looking. She'd always been a bit secretive about her phone, but I brushed it off. Trust is the foundation, they say, and I trusted her with everything. Until that night, that is. It was late, around midnight, when I happened to glance at the security footage from the hotel where we'd stayed the night after the wedding. I'd been too exhausted to check earlier, but now curiosity got the best of me. I clicked on the feed, expecting to see her asleep or maybe unpacking her bag. Instead, what I saw made my stomach drop. There she was, Lisa, sneaking out of our room, walking down the hall under the dim glow of the corridor lights. Her footsteps were quiet, but her figure looked hurried, almost guilty. My heart pounded as I watched her slip into a room across the hall. I paused the footage, staring at the screen. I saw her slip a hand into her purse, her head ducked low. What the hell was she doing? I kept replaying the clip, my palms sweaty, my stomach twisting. It wasn't just her sneaking out, it was what she was hiding. I didn't recognize the room, but it was enough to make my head spin. I remember feeling cold all over, like I'd been physically punched. My fists clenched automatically, the ache in my jaw tightening. How could she do this? On our wedding night, the happiest day of my life, she was out sneaking around with someone else. The footage was so clear, so damning. I couldn't believe it, but there it was, undeniable. I played the clip 3 more times just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. No mistake, that was her. I could see her silhouette clearly, her movements hurried but purposeful. She looked small, vulnerable even, but not innocent. That was the moment everything changed. I felt like I was walking through a fog, everything else muffled and distant. My mind started racing, trying to piece together what I'd missed, what I'd ignored. The first instinct was anger. It was a fire that burned through my chest, hot and relentless. How many signs had I ignored? The late nights, the little lies, the weird phone calls. All of it suddenly made sense. The gut feeling I'd shove aside because I wanted to believe she was perfect, that she loved me. But this was beyond cheating. It was betrayal of the worst kind. I stayed glued to the screen, watching her disappear into that room and then come back after what felt like an eternity. When she finally returned, she looked exhausted, her face pale in the dim light of the hallway. She didn't notice I was watching. I felt like I'd been punched again, only this time in the gut. My head was spinning. I knew that I couldn't ignore this anymore. I had to confront her, no matter how much it hurt. Later that night, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the ceiling. My fingers trembled as I held the phone, my mind a whirlwind of questions. How long had she been doing this? Who was she with? Was she still doing it? I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't deny that the evidence was right there, plain as day. My whole life, everything I'd built, felt like it was crumbling at that moment. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the footage, trying to make sense of it all. The worst part was knowing that I'd never be able to trust her again. The beautiful woman I married, the one I loved more than anything, had been hiding something terrible right from the start. And yet, part of me was still in shock, waiting for some kind of explanation that I knew wouldn't come. My mind kept circling back to one thought: what the hell do I do now? The next morning, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Every muscle in my body ached, and my head was heavy, stuffed with fog. I kept waking up, dreaming about that night, reliving it over and over again as if I could find some missing piece to the puzzle. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit here and pretend everything was fine. Not anymore. I got up early, feeling the cold air hit my face as I stepped outside. The world looked the same, but inside I was a storm of rage and betrayal. I dialed her number to hear her voice, but I hesitated, staring at my phone like it was a venomous snake. Instead, I sent her a text: "We need to talk, now." I didn't want to give her time to prepare her lies or dodge me. I wanted her to face what she'd done immediately. When she finally responded, her words were hesitant, almost trembling. Can we talk in person, please? I agreed, though I didn't want to see her. Part of me was afraid I'd lose control, that I'd lash out or break down. But I knew I had to stay focused. She arrived at my place an hour later, looking pale and resigned. Her eyes darted around as she stepped inside. I did. Bother with small talk. I just pointed at her, my voice low and hard. I saw the footage, I know what you did. Her face paled further, but she kept her composure, at least on the surface. It's not what you think, she started, her voice trembling. I was stressed. I didn't mean for it to happen. Stop. I cut her off. My fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. Don't give me some bullshit about stress. You sneaked out of our room at midnight into someone else's room. Who was he? Tell me. She hesitated, then looked away. It was just a stupid mistake. I was drunk. Don't lie to me, I snapped. You were sneaking around, hiding something. I saw the footage, Lisa. You can't deny it. She looked like she might cry, but her voice was flat. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was overwhelmed. I thought I loved you. Love doesn't mean sneaking out and cheating, I said, voice rising. You broke my trust. You broke us. I pulled back, fighting the rising tears of rage and heartbreak. I want you gone. She looked stunned, like she hadn't expected me to be so cold, so firm. Please, she whispered, voice cracking. Don't do this. We can fix it. I'll make it right. No, I said sharply. You had your chance. I'm done. I turned away, forcing myself to keep calm even though my stomach was churning. I couldn't let her see me break. Not now. That night, I started planning my next move. I realized that if I wanted any chance at getting my life back, I had to be smart. I couldn't just kick her out and hope it all disappeared. She betrayed me in the worst way, and I needed a way to make her regret it. I knew I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. I started gathering evidence, not just the footage, but everything I could find, her phone, her emails, anything that showed she'd been dishonest long before the wedding. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't just some fool who got played. I'd fight for my dignity. The plan was simple but effective. I'd make her realize that her lies had consequences. The moment I'd been waiting for was close. I just needed one last piece to make sure she'd never forget the pain she caused. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just leaving her. She was going to feel the loss of everything she took from me. As I sat there, staring at my phone, I knew this was only the beginning. She thought she could cheat and get away with it. Well, I was about to prove her wrong. The game was on, and I was ready to play dirty. But the question was, how far was I willing to go? I spent the next few days turning my mind into a battlefield. Every time I looked at her belongings, I felt a surge of anger. Her makeup, her clothes, the little trinkets she left behind, all of it now served as evidence of her betrayal. I'd always believed that a marriage was built on trust, but that belief was crumbling fast. Now, it felt like I was holding on to a ghost. I knew I couldn't confront her again without something concrete. So I started digging deeper, checking her emails, her social media messages, even her phone logs. I knew it was wrong, but I was driven by this overwhelming need to understand exactly what I was dealing with. The more I uncovered, the more I realized this wasn't just a one-time slip-up. It was a pattern, years of lies hiding behind her pretty smile. One late afternoon, I found a string of texts on her phone exchanged with some guy named Mark. Nothing explicit, but enough to tell me they'd been talking for months. Can't wait to see you tonight, one message read. Don't forget midnight, another said. My stomach clenched as I looked at her words, feeling like I was hit with a sledgehammer. This wasn't just a moment of weakness. It was a secret life she'd been hiding from me. I felt my jaw tighten. I told myself I'd confront her with everything, but I also knew I had to be strategic. If I stormed in with accusations now, she'd probably deny everything, twist it around, make me look like the villain. No, I needed to catch her in the act again, something undeniable. That's when I decided I'd set a trap. If she was sneaking out at midnight, I'd be waiting for her. The night came, and I positioned a camera in the hallway outside our room, small, discreet, but enough to see her coming and going. I wanted her to think I wasn't watching, that I was oblivious. She was so careless, so unaware of what was coming. When the clock struck midnight, I sat in the dark, heart pounding, palms sweaty, but my mind clear. Then there she was, sneaking out again, just like on the footage I'd seen. I watched her slip into that same room across the hall. This time I was ready. I recorded everything, her footsteps, her quick movements, her hurried glance over her shoulder. My chest felt tight like I was suffocating. I had what I needed now. Just one more step and I'd have her exactly where I wanted her. As she returned, she looked exhausted again and her face was shadowed by guilt. Still, she didn't notice my camera, nor did she sense my presence. I stayed silent, feeling the adrenaline course through my veins. This was all about making her see that I knew, that I had proof. I'd already decided what I would do next, but I wanted to see her squirm first. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal. I sat there, watching. Her walk into our room, her shoulders hunched, chest heaving from the run. I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and disgust. She thought she was so clever, so untouchable. But I was about to turn her world upside down. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity, about making her face her lies. Once she was inside, I turned off the camera and waited. The moment she fell asleep, I'd make my move. I had everything I needed to show her that the man she thought she was betraying had turned into someone she wouldn't recognize. I wasn't just going to walk away. No, I'd make her regret every second of her foolishness, every lie she told herself. And when morning came, I'd be ready to reveal the truth. This was just the beginning of what I knew was going to be a long, painful journey. But I was done playing nice. Now I was playing for keeps. That morning, I woke up with a bitter taste in my mouth. The adrenaline from the night before hadn't worn off. It was still burning inside me. I stayed in bed for a while, replaying everything I'd seen her sneaking out, her hurried steps, the way her shoulders looked tense. I knew I could no longer keep quiet. If I was going to do this right, I had to be precise and cold. I brewed myself a cup of black coffee, black as my mood. The house was strangely quiet, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and my own thoughts crashing around. I knew Lisa would probably come out of her room soon, probably trying to act normal, but I didn't plan on letting her. Not yet. I whispered to myself, time to make her see she can't hide anymore. That's when I decided I'd approach her directly with the evidence in hand. I wanted her to know I had been watching, that I was prepared. The plan was simple but effective. Confront her with everything I had, plain and cold, no room for denial. She sat at the breakfast table, her fingers trembling as she stirred her coffee. I kept my distance for a moment, gathering my courage. When I finally spoke, my voice was steady but firm. "We need to talk, now." She looked up, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and confusion. "What's wrong?" I laid the phone and the printed screenshots on the table. "This," I said, voice low but deliberate. "This is what I found last night, your text to Mark, you're sneaking out every bit of it." I watched her face drain of color. "How long has this been going on?" Her lips trembled and she looked away. I didn't mean for you to find out like this," she whispered. "It's been a few months. I didn't want it to hurt you, I swear." I clenched my fists so tight I thought my nails would dig into my palms. "A few months? You've been lying to my face this whole time." My voice cracked slightly. "And you think I was just supposed to ignore all those late nights, all those secret messages?" She started to cry softly, her hands clasped in her lap. "It wasn't supposed to go this far. I was feeling trapped, overwhelmed. I thought I loved you, but I was stupid. I didn't want to lose everything." I shook my head, feeling my stomach knot tighter. "You lost me the moment you decided to sneak around. Behind my back, you think I don't see what you're doing. You're not just cheating," I said, voice rising. "You're disrespecting everything we built. I trusted you, Lisa, and you threw that away." She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "Please," she begged, voice cracking, "don't do this. I'll stop. I swear, just give me another chance." That was the moment I knew I couldn't forgive that easily. Not this time. I had to make her understand that her actions had consequences, that I was done being a fool. I needed her to feel the pain she'd caused, to see that I wasn't going to let her destroy us without paying a price. I told her I needed some time to think. Then I stormed out of the house. I went to my laptop and started sketching out the revenge plan I'd been contemplating. It had to be calculated. She thought she'd gotten away with it, but I was about to turn her own game against her. The first step was to cut her off completely. I'd take away her control, her comfort zone. I knew her weakness. She was a creature of convenience, manipulative, and selfish. It was time to make her feel vulnerable, just like I was feeling now. I wanted her to know what it was like to be exposed, to be betrayed in a way she couldn't deny. I also contacted one of my friends, someone I trusted, to help me with a little surprise to remind her just how much she'd lost. I wasn't interested in some childish revenge, but I wanted her to understand that no one cheats without consequences. My plan was simple. I'd make her realize she'd pushed me to the edge, and now I was about to push back hard. As I sat there staring at the screen, I felt a strange mixture of adrenaline, hatred, and relief. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity. I'd been played, yes, but I was going to fight for what was left of myself. She thought she could ruin me, but she hadn't counted on me fighting back. The game had changed. I was no longer just the betrayed husband. I was the one calling the shots now, and I was ready to make her regret the day she ever crossed me. The only question was how much was she truly willing to lose? That night I went through with the biggest part of my plan. I've been waiting for this moment, waiting to see her face when she realized I wasn't just going to roll over and accept her betrayal. I set everything up meticulously. The email account, the fake online profile, the message that would be her wake-up call. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable, and most of all, guilty. I sat in my dimly lit living room, heart pounding, palms slick with sweat. My hands trembled as I typed the final words. I crafted the message carefully, making sure she'd see it as soon as she checked her phone. It read, "Found out the truth. You're not as clever as you think. I know everything. Meet me at the hotel lobby at midnight if you want to talk alone." I hesitated for a moment, then hit send. The rush of adrenaline hit me like a wave. Her phone buzzed almost immediately. I watched her face turn pale as she read the message, her eyes darting across the screen. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. When she looked up at me, terror in her eyes, I finally felt a flicker of satisfaction. "You think you can keep hiding?" I asked coldly. "This is the end of the line. You're going to face what you've done." She tried to deny it, pleaded, begged for mercy, but I wasn't buying it anymore. The mask had come off. I told her I'd be there, waiting in the lobby to catch her in the act, to show her that I knew everything. The plan was set, and I wasn't going to back down. Midnight came fast. I slipped out of the house quietly and headed to the hotel. It was a small place, nothing fancy, but enough for what I needed. I found a seat near the lobby, watching the entrance, my stomach twisting into knots. Every second felt like an hour, but I kept my eyes glued to the door. Then she appeared, hesitant, eyes darting around. She looked around the lobby like she was searching for someone, then caught sight of me. Her face drained of color. She approached slowly, her voice trembling. "You came." "Yeah," I said quietly. "You knew I'd be here." I leaned forward. "Why did you do this? Why sneaking out? Why lying?" She looked down, tears threatening to spill. "I was stupid. I thought I could fix things, that it wouldn't matter. I was scared, and I didn't know how to tell you. Please just listen. Don't bother." I cut her off. "You had your chance. You betrayed me, Lisa. It's over." I paused, my voice dropping into a hard tone. "You're going to regret this, the way you've hurt me, and I want you to leave, right now." She looked like she was about to protest, but I was done listening. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the keys to her car, and handed them to her. "Take your stuff. Don't come back, ever." Her shoulders sagged, and she looked like she wanted to say something, but the words got stuck in her throat. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. I watched her walk away, each step feeling like a small victory and a final break. As she disappeared out of sight, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd done what I needed to do. I'd taken back control, even if it hurt like hell. I knew there would be a long road ahead, but I'd made my stand. I went back home, shut the door, and finally allowed myself to breathe. Sitting alone in the quiet, I realized that I'd never trust her again. The pain was raw, but I also felt something else. Hope. Hope that I could rebuild what was broken, that I could find peace again. The key lesson, I guess, is that betrayal doesn't just hurt, it shatters everything. But what matters most is how you pick up the pieces afterward. I was done waiting for her to change. From now on, I was going to focus on myself. The real fight was just beginning. In the days that followed, I felt like I was waking up from a nightmare I didn't realize I'd been trapped in. The house was eerily quiet, every room a reminder of what I'd lost and what I'd gained. My mind kept circling back to that moment in the hotel lobby, her face desperate and defeated. It was a hard thing to accept, but it was necessary. I had to remind myself that sometimes the only way to reclaim your life is to cut out the poison, no matter how much it stings. I started packing up her things, photos, clothes, anything that linked her to the life we'd shared. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about closing that chapter for good. I handed over her keys, her phone, her belongings, making sure she had nothing left to hide behind. The act felt symbolic, like ripping off a Band-Aid I'd been avoiding for too long. I wanted to feel like I was finally free. The day I handed her the keys, she looked at me with tear-filled eyes and whispered, "I'm sorry," but I didn't respond. I just nodded and turned away. She left that evening and I watched her drive off, the rearview mirror fading into the distance. As her car disappeared down the street, I felt a strange sense of finality wash over me. It was over. The betrayal, the lies, the illusion of a happy ending gone. Sitting alone in the quiet of what used to be our home, I finally allowed myself to breathe. There's a strange kind of emptiness when everything you thought was solid crumbles beneath your feet. But beneath that, there's also a fragile sense of relief. I'd faced the worst and survived. More importantly, I'd taken back control of my life. Looking back, I realized that the pain was unavoidable. Betrayal cuts deep, and it forces you to confront some harsh truths about trust, love, and your own strength. I had to understand that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply walking away and refusing to let her poison me anymore. Staying angry or bitter would only keep me chained to the past. Now, I choose to focus on rebuilding what I lost, piece by piece. To anyone out there who's been betrayed, I'll say this: it's okay to feel broken. It's okay to be furious. But remember, you have the power to decide what comes next. You don't have to let someone else's actions define you. Sometimes letting go is the most powerful thing you can do. And when you're ready, you'll find your way back to yourself, stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever. So I walk forward now with a clear mind and a heavy but hopeful heart. The scars will stay, but they'll fade. And one day, I'll look back on this chapter and see it as the moment I took control and refused to be a victim anymore. That's real strength. That's true freedom.